And I was born in Poland, White Russia, Smolina, the little village outside of Borisov, in 1941, September 28th, 1941. So now everybody knows I'm 80 years old. But anyway, I was born there, and prior to that, my mother was sent to Siberia by Uncle Stalin, and she barely escaped there and came back to Borisov, and then my father and she developed a relationship and had three children: Piotr, my oldest brother, Janek, and I. And in 1943, just before we made a night exodus out of White Russia, smack into Germany in the middle of the war, 1943. And the reason we did that was because Father felt that Stalin killed his own people. Hitler had selections that he murdered. We were not those. And we were fortunate to have, my cousin had a relationship with, he was a linguist officer, a Hitler officer. They were known as SS men. And he was able to give us documentation so we could travel safely into Germany. And the documentation basically said that we were of German blood, that our ancestors were German, so we were what they called Volkdeutsch. So we had that documentation. I don't remember how many days or a week or two that it took us to leave from Borisov into Germany, but we got there with a lot of adventures, some memorable, some best forgotten. And my parents worked for the German people. The parents delivered coal to the German families, and the parents also worked in a factory. It was a roof factory, but what they made, my cousins did not remember, but that's where they worked. So that's where we kind of survived the war by just doing what we had to do to survive.
Couple then, questions for you before you move on to the war. So you lived in what was then Belorussia, but I believe you said you were Polish.
Well, yes. My parents spoke Polish, White Russian, and I think Russian also. I was brought up Polish. I only spoke Polish. I thought Smolina was in Poland. Well, at one time it was in Poland, and at one time Poland didn't even exist. So, it's all very confusing, especially to Americans, because, hey, America is America. God bless America. But during the war, I mean, back and forth. So I grew up thinking we were Polish. And then found out later, when I was in my 20s, my father said actually it was Belarus that I was born in, and we left. So when we left, we went into Germany because we were not a threat, and we had documentation, etc. So, and then of course, in 45, the war ended, and we just were in the English zone, which was in northern Germany. And I do remember, I was 2.5 when we left White Russia. And I do remember some of the sojourn. I remember the plains. I remember running into woods, running into ravines, gullies along the road, getting out of the bombing. And I asked my cousins, I said, were they Allied planes? Were they German planes? and none of them remember. They don't remember what they were. All they knew was that they wanted to get out of their way quickly. So we did. But I do remember the fear. I remember the Germans. I remember German shepherds. And then a lot of that I also remember in the DP camps. That's where we landed up in the when the war ended. We were actually in Schwerin. And I remember the day the war ended. Everybody flooded to the streets, and it was like a river of people. All they were doing was promenading back and forth, back and forth. I was asked, were they laughing? Were they happy? I said, I don't remember anything other than somber people walking back and forth like they could not believe that this is actually, that they can be on a street and be safe. It was like shell shock, I guess, kind of. And my brother Peter and I got somehow separated in this river of people. And I remember, I asked my brother when he was alive how long it was that we were separated. And he said maybe 4 hours or so. And I was, very young and holding his hand, and I remember looking at him, and the poor guy's looked like hopelessness. Like he said, well, what are we gonna do? What am I gonna do? And then my mother comes out of the crowd and yells at us, and we were reunited with them, and I remember that, and it's a lot of insecurities and a lot of idiosyncrasies that I have. I can justify it. I keep telling my children that. I said, forgive me. Anyway.
Now, when you left Belorussia,
Mm-hmm.
who was traveling in your little group? It was you,
The
and your
12 of
parents,
us.
and your siblings.
Yes. It's my uncle, and my father were brothers, and their mother, the grandmother, and then my uncle, his wife, and 4 children, the twins and 2 girls. They had four girls. Then my father and my mother and my 2 brothers and I. So there were 12 of us. And my father used to always joke that the 12 apostles are leaving White Russia. So there were 12 of us that and other than my grandmother and the horse, the driver, not the driver, what is he? The guy who's handling the horse.
The driver, yeah.
Okay, he was handling whoever it was, whether it was my uncle or my father, and the grandmother was always on the cart, and I was always on the cart because I was 2.5 years old, maybe. And but the rest walked from Borisov, Belarus, all the way into Germany. I don't know. I asked them how long they thought. They did not remember how many days or weeks it took, but it was quite a feat, and they all walked. And then I said, well, where do we sleep? Because I only remember there was one abandoned house on our journey to Germany, and it was abandoned, and we, what do you call it when you go in and take, squatted. And there was other people there. We weren't the only ones there. And that's the first time I saw a linoleum white tablecloth. I thought, oh my God, what, whoa. And then one of the boys was playing a violin. And I remember asking a stupid question. I said to my brother Yannick, I said, why is his hand shaking? He just dismissed me. But anyway, so I remember we did go into a house at least one time. But Janka, one of the twins, said most of the time we slept under the cart, under the cart. It was like a hay cart, but it was full of our stuff. And the horse was a sway back. Anyway, but that's how we traveled all the way into Germany and survived unbelievably.
Now, your parents decided to leave when the Red Army started to get too close? Is that what prompted it?
No, they started to leave when they discovered that across the stream, Stalin, the Russians, murdered a whole family
Oh,
and just let them rot by the river, by their little stream. And that's when my father said, you know what, this is not for us. We have to, and the danger being in Borisov or in Belarus at that time, I understand, was daytime it's the Germans that you were afraid of. At night it was the Partizani.
okay.
And the Partizanis would come and they stole a cow from us. Well, my mother went back and got it back.
Oh, wow.
I'm telling you, if she could
she must have been
survive
tough.
Siberia, she could survive
Partisans,
Partizani. But anyway, so that's,
were your parents sympathetic to the partisans, or did they see them as enemies, or?
I think, I don't think they thought of them as enemies, because they're supposed to be against the Russians, against the not the Russians, I mean against the enemy, whoever the enemy was.
Okay.
And, but sometimes they actually robbed
Yeah.
the people,
Yeah.
For their own survival.
Right.
So my father said, we're getting out of Dodge. And in the middle of the night, but he was kind. He told the neighbor where he hid some of the stuff.
Oh, okay.
Because you had to share. Colonizing, Stalin colonized everything, so that you had to.
Collective farm.
Yes. So, geez, I'm divulging all these family secrets. But anyway, so he told the farmer and the neighbor where he hid some of the provisions, and so that he could benefit from it. And then we went off into Germany, and thank goodness that we were in the English zone, and the Americans came. And when we were in Schwerin, and my uncle was there also, and the twins said that an American GI came up to the girls, the two twins. They were, maybe 13 or something. They were teenagers, beautiful little darlings, and the American wanted to adopt them. So that was a funny little story with the twins. But anyway.
So do you remember seeing British soldiers or American soldiers or anything?
It's funny because we were in DP camps, and I have a list of all the DP camps that we were in. What I do remember was the what is the word when they come in to check?
The inspection?
Inspections, yes, inspections. And sometimes there would be a German, and sometimes there would be a soldier, but I don't remember whether they were English soldiers or American. I don't remember that. But there would always be two inspecting. And this is funny. Well, it's kind of sad funny. My father had bartered and traded with the Germans and whatever. He was very resourceful. And we got a piece of meat, okay? Well, there was an inspection. What are you going to do with the meat? This is kind of icky, but my mother put twine around the meat. I think it could have been a ham, I don't know, something. It was large. And she, they had long skirts, and she put it under her skirt, under her thing, and then she held me in her arms. And I remember, I'm thinking, oh my God, I hope the dog doesn't come.
Oh.
But I do remember that.
Oh,
Isn't that weird?
That's very clever.
Yeah.
So you ate well that night.
Yeah, we ate well. lot of little goofy things that happened too. But thank God we survived it.
So how long were you in the camps?
Well, 4 years.
Oh, wow.
4 years. It was we went from one into another. There was one camp that we went twice to. I don't know what, but anyway, I do have the names of them. And everyone was different. They were barracks, is what the camps were, barracks. Like they were like soldier barracks, I guess. And they had one barrack was kitchen, and then one latrine. Ugh. Yeah, but anyway, and then the the sleeping where we slept, usually it was a blanket that you put up to partition the families. We didn't have rooms. Well, because they were barracks and men slept and whatever. But so that was that's how we survived. And I don't even know why they changed us from one camp to another. I don't know why. But I do remember being told that when the war ended, Stalin wanted all his people back. And that my father, he had a few gold rubles, and he bribed the mayor of the camp that we were in and a priest to help change from Smolina, Belarus to Smolina, Poland, so that we didn't have to go back to Belarus.
Obviously, with your mother's experiences when she was
Oh,
younger,
yes.
she wanted no part of
She
that.
was not going back to Siberia,
Right.
and that's what Uncle Stalin did with everybody's. He took over everything they had, and he industrialized Russia in 10 years, right?
Now, do you know why she went to Siberia in the first place?
Because of her first husband was wealthy,
Okay.
and they had land and everything, and that's what Stalin did, was he'd take over the property and ship you off to Siberia. So her first husband died there, perished. His parents also, and my mother, and she had a baby. They had a baby boy, and then, as I recall, for some reason, everybody was, the children and everyone was dying from typhoid fever because they had thatched roof, and when they started the furnaces, the ice melted and would come down, and kids were dying. So Stalin said, all right, send the kids back to wherever, Belarus. And the family that was in charge of the exodus from Siberia took mother for little gold and the baby. And I remember my mother telling me that when they were going back on the train back to Belarus, the couple held the baby, took care of the baby, and my mother was in the upper berth of the train, of a train, not the same where the couple was, but and she was hiding there, and she said the first checkpoint is always very thorough, and she's up there, and then she hears some soldier saying "Vylazi," that means get out, and my mother says, "Oh, I'm done." And then they're shuffling, and then they pull a guy out from the lower lower bunk, and they cart him off and forget to check the upper bunk. So that's how my mother passed from Siberia. She was able to come back to Borisov, and she stayed with her sister, hiding. I think she told me for 2 years she had to hide. Because, people, you didn't know who to trust anymore.
Right, you didn't know who was going to turn you
Right. So she, every time that they would have some company would come in, she would hide behind, and they used to have these like a freestanding oven and furnace-like, and she would go and hide behind there until they left, and then she'd come out.
Wow.
So my mother went through a lot.
Yes.
She was a pistol.
She must have been a tough lady.
She was. And darling, gorgeous, petite. Anyway. What else would you like?
So, what else do you remember as a child in Borisov? You said you grew up on a farm.
Yes, it was. Yes, and my mother. I remember my mother telling me that during the war things were so tough that for the dogs, when the potatoes they would peel, she would put a little grease on there, and those dogs would eat that like it was caviar.
Oh, wow.
That's how tough it was.
Yeah.
And I remember a little bit of White Russia, but it wasn't sad or anything. It was, I mean, my parents provided for the children, always the children first. So I don't remember ever starving to death.
Okay.
No. There might have been hunger and etc., but it was always taken care of. And you knew that what was there was enough. So
whatever was there was there.
Was there, exactly. And White Russia, I don't remember that much. One memory where I was sitting on a table and pounding, and a window broke, and my aunts came out of the house and saying, "What did I do?" I said, "I didn't do anything."
You don't know what broke the window?
No, maybe when I hammered the sound, maybe. I don't know, but how could I have,
Yeah.
I'm sitting on a table, whatever. But I remember that memory, and then of course the Exodus, I do remember that part.
Do you remember your group of 12? Were there other people on the road with you? Or you were all
Oh
alone?
no, we were always alone. No, we were always alone. I think you pass people, but nobody was going to Germany.
Oh, okay. Trying to get out.
I don't know. I don't remember meeting other people other than in that house, that one house that we.
So that was, you said, 1943.
That was in
So
1943.
the war was still really
Yeah, it
raging
was.
around you.
Yeah, it was still. And apparently whoever lived there was bummed out, and they left, etc., and left everything, almost. So. But it was interesting. But you wonder, how does a farmer have gold pieces? And I told you earlier that my father loved to hunt. And he was a hunter, and one day he was out hunting, and there was a bombed out house with just a chimney up. And the sun just hit it, and it glittered. And he said, "Gee, what is that? What is glowing, sparkling there?" So he went over there and he looked, and there were gold rubles. Someone had hid that into the chimney, and apparently the caulking or whatever, or the brick fell out, and there was the gold. So that was what helped us.
So that's what he used to
bribe.
Grease the palms.
Grease the palm. That's a good way to put it. Grease the palm. that
Wow.
got us. Yeah.
That was a lucky day for him.
Well, it certainly was. Yes,
Wow.
yes, it was. It was beautiful. And let's see, what else can I tell you about coming to America?
Oh yes. So you finally, after 4 years of bouncing around, decided to come.
We finally got a sponsor. George Grass from Dickinson, North Dakota, a farmer, and he sponsored us, and we were the first to leave. Bremerhaven from, let me see, what doesn't matter what camp it was, but the last one was whatever it was. But anyway, so we got on the Bremerhaven, and I do have a photo of us getting off the train. Excuse me. And
do you recall, I mean, obviously a lot of that stuff had been bombed out. Do you recall seeing bombed out cities in Germany, or?
Yeah, but you see it all the time,
Okay.
so it doesn't.
So it wasn't really.
So it
anything.
doesn't stick in your
Okay.
mind because you see it all the time, and people rummaging through bricks and things.
Wow.
Just you see that all the time. And I mean, most of my memories are of the camps, DP camps, because I was then maybe 3 years old, 2.5, 3 years old, and then I was 7 when we immigrated to America, and we landed in New York City on 9/11, 1949.
Wow.
I mean, I didn't see the connection until I looked at my mother's green immigration card
Yes.
about 4 years ago, and I thought, oh my God, I can't believe what irony, what irony that we came September 9, 1949, and then September 11th, 1949, and then my birthday was 2 weeks later, or 3 weeks later. I was 8. So my memories are of the DP camps, displaced persons camps, and like I said, I don't know why they kept moving us around, but they did, and I do remember many of the camps. At the entry, they would have pansies, all kinds of colors of pansies, and then wild roses, bushes. You know, the Germans were, very floral. They they were all these camps. They were military camps at one time, probably.
So they were converted.
Because they were, the barracks. They were all barracks.
Now, while you were there in the DP camps, did you go to school?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we went to school, all in Polish.
Oh, okay.
And the crazy thing is, I was just learning German while we were there. So I was learning German, and then we, in '49, were sponsored by a farmer, happily, and we left, and then I had to learn English, and so I lost German.
Oh.
Yeah, which is too bad, because had we stayed one more year, it would have stayed with me,
Right.
And turns out one of my best friends is German.
Oh.
Gisela. Anyway, so.
So do you remember the voyage on the ship?
Yes, I do. First time I saw a movie, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I'm thinking, wow, hey, America's going to be fun.
Do you know what the movie was?
No, it was kissing.
Oh, it was kissing.
No, I don't remember the movie, but the people, the food, you ate, and you were just grateful to be alive, and to be. And when we got to America, I mentioned to you, when the ship is coming into Manhattan, I guess Ellis Island, and I said, oh my God, look at all that. What is that? And she says, my friend said, oh, those are cars, you silly. And I said, oh my God, they're like ants. Because in Europe, you don't see but military cars. Here is all these cars. Anyway, so that was my first.
That was your
That was my
moment.
first moment.
Yeah.
I don't remember isn't it funny? I don't recall the buildings or anything, the skyscrapers. Just the cars.
Huh.
And then when we got to, I guess, Ellis Island, I'm not sure it was Ellis, but it was New York City. And because I lost all my, in a move, it's somewhere in the storage. But we're sitting there, and when we were in DP camps, they provided wood and tools for the men to build trunks for our possessions for our imminent voyage to America. So we had that to put all our belongings. It's amazing we had any belongings in there. And then the rest of the things we would wrap in blankets and tie the blankets. So I remember sitting there with the trunks and our blankets of suitcases, kind of. And I look up and I see, oh my God, what is that? The steps were moving.
Oh.
It's the first time I ever saw an escalator.
Oh, wow.
I was amazed. Wow, America. I was 7 years old, almost 8.
Wow.
So those are the things, and then of course the government. What did they give you? I think the government gave at New York City like $10 or something. I can't remember the amount, but the government gave us a certain amount of money for the train, and it was like 4 or 5 days from New York to Dickinson, North Dakota. And my mother, I told you, she said, "Oh my God, does America never end?" Because Europe is boom, 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 one country after the other. You know, one day you can be from one to another. Here it's 5 days, and we're not even near Dickinson, North Dakota. Anyway, but we got there, and the rest is history.
Well, so this farmer sponsored you because your father was a farmer, so he had skills.
He had labor.
Yeah.
My parents, 2 teenage boys for after school, and Hela and I was a playmate for the daughter. They had a daughter my age, maybe she was a year older or something, or whatever. So we went and lived in their home. They gave us a room.
Oh, wow.
A room for a month or two for us to live while they were building a little cottage for us. So then we moved there and had our own kitchen, bathroom, and basically 1 bedroom, you know, but a big one. And we all slept, you know, wherever we wanted to.
So what was it like? So here, none of you speak English.
No.
Did the farmer speak Polish or?
No, but my father spoke German a little bit, and I think the farmer Grass, he was German descent.
Oh,
So they somehow got.
So they managed to
They
communicate.
managed to communicate. Yes. Then when I went to, I should have been gone to 2nd grade or something, and they said, well, she's got to go back to 1st grade because she can't speak, you know, blah blah. I thought, with all these babies.
Oh.
But I did, and I learned quickly the English language, and we were just, you know, we survived. We were so grateful to have a home, to have peace, you know, carefree, not carefree, meaning you still had to survive, you had to work and all that, but at least you didn't have to worry about bombing and a crazy Uncle Stalin.
So how long did it take before you all were comfortable about that, where you weren't afraid? Did you kind of adjust quickly, or did it take?
We all did. No, we adjusted quickly to not being afraid.
Okay.
No, it was. We knew that once we were in America, it was safe.
Okay.
Now, if anybody pressed for documentation and pressed it, that was the only fear, is that they'd send us back.
Okay.
But other than that, there was none. We were very comfortable.
Okay.
And my uncle, who had the 4 girls and the grandmother, we left in September. They got sponsored in November by a priest in Conway, Arkansas. So their ship, General Muir, left in November 1949 to New York, then to New Orleans. And then from New Orleans, they went to Conway, Arkansas. And I don't know, does it interest you what happened?
Sure.
The priest said to my uncle, you can't survive here in Conway, Arkansas. The next truck with supplies that goes into Chicago. You get on that and you go there, Chicago, find a home, find a job, find this, and he gave, I'm sure, a contact person. And that's what my uncle did. He found a job. He found a basement apartment, and came back for the family. And the priest helped them.
Oh wow!
So, but the reason the priest sponsored him because he saw the photo of the family, and he said, "Oh, look at that beautiful family. Oh, those girls are so good. We have to save them." So the church, sponsored, and then they said, Chicago's your answer.
Okay.
And they're still in Chicago, whoever's still living. I'm the only one that left, and Chicago, and my brother.
So how long were you on the farm?
1 year.
Only 1 year.
My father said he owed the farmer 1 year labor. The farmer paid $300 for the family to go from New York City to Dickinson, North Dakota.
Okay.
I think it was $300. It was some $100, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So when my father said to the farmer, "Thank you, we appreciate, we are grateful to you, but I must leave for Chicago, and my future is there." And the farmer said, "Well, you can't go. You owe me $300, whatever it was." And my father said, "Oh yeah." He goes in his pocket and he pulls out and pays him. Pays him back. So now there's no hold on him. And so the farmer got the priest to come and try to talk him to staying, and there was no way that they were. So my father and my mother got a job at a bar restaurant, and they gave us a room to sleep, like a little apartment to sleep, because it was a bar restaurant. And they worked there, I think, a few months, and they bought a car, a 1939 Ford. I could still smell that upholstery. And then when we got enough money for the move, we went from Dickinson, North Dakota to Chicago, and we slept in like Walmart. It wasn't Walmart, but in parking lots and gasoline stations. We'd ask if we could, and I said, "Sure, go ahead." The kids with kids,
So was that your first car ride?
Let me think.
I mean, you had been so struck by the cars when you were coming in. Did you?
Yeah. No, because in Dickinson, North Dakota was the first time I was in cars.
Okay, so you
for
had
the
access
farmer
to the
and
car
then the
there.
school kids,
Okay.
and everybody kind of thought I was a novelty, so they invited me to their birthday parties and things like
so
that.
They were very welcoming.
They were very, very lovely.
Okay.
Yes, So that, yeah. I just remembered episode that happened when we were exiting Belarus, and that involved my brother Yannick. And Yannick, it was summer, it was hot, and he was sitting on the cart with his leg out of the cart, and a military truck, was too close, and they ripped his leg, like three, where the whatever the border was of the truck, and it ripped his legs, and my poor and they just laughed. They just thought, I don't know if they knew that what they did, but it was obvious that we were scared, and they just laughed. So that was cruel, I thought. And poor Yannick. I asked Bianca, and she said she thought they were Germans, but she was, it was a military truck.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But anyway, that was a.
Did he? I mean, he recovered.
Sure. Oh yeah.
So
He's the one who.
injury.
Yeah, he's the one who was a PhD in chemistry.
Oh, okay. So he recovered from.
Oh, he recovered nicely. Yes, very nicely. So, but anyway, no, we all did well. And I don't remember how many days it took us to drive the 39 Ford to Chicago, and then we found a little a basement apartment on Crystal Street in Chicago, and my father got a job at night with the railroad company, and my mother got a job at a restaurant down on Canal Street and kind of off of downtown Chicago. And she made 25 cents an hour dishwasher. Can you believe that?
Wow.
25 cents an hour. Well, we're talking 1951, I think. 1951. But anyway, so that was kind of crazy. Anyway, so, and while we were in Germany in the DP camps, I regress. My father, because I told you he traded in Handel they call it, a German taught him how to repair watches. So while we're there, you know, once in a while we would get provisions, like care package, and something that we wouldn't need or want, he would trade with this jeweler. But anyway, so he taught him how to repair watches. So when we came to Chicago, and my father worked at the railroad company, and friends would say, "Oh, you repair watches? Could you repair?" So he would repair watches,
Okay.
and that is what led us to the next adventure in our lives. And the reason being that another jeweler hired him part-time to repair watches, and it was JP Jewelers, and the owner was John Prime, and he loved politics. So he said, "Hey, Antonia, you buy my store, and I go into politics, and you and your son," because my son was my brother Peter, the oldest, and so that's what happened. Peter, he was a gemologist, and he was in the Army, and American Army, and he took their correspondent courses.
Okay.
And business courses and things like that. So my father and Peter became, as partners, bought JP Jewelers, and that is how my family made their living. And Johnny went on to the Army, and then that's the middle brother, excuse me, he went in the Army and then went back to school, and went back to school until he got his PhD in chemistry. And Peter, you could ask him and he'd fix anything. When he'd come and visit me in Pittsburgh, he said, "Okay, what do you need to have repaired?" He could repair a car, plumbing, electricity, what else is there? Anything. He was amazing. And of course watches, he repaired watches. He was amazing. He was self-taught. Oh, and accordion, he played accordion, self-taught, amazing. I had two amazing brothers, brilliant brothers, but I always say, but I was the pretty one, and I really wasn't.
So your parents went from being, refugees sleeping under a cart to owning a business. I mean, they really
Right.
realized the American dream then.
Yep, totally. And we had two stores, Naperville and Summit Argo. Two stores, and then retired and closed, and Peter retired and closed the stores. Father died, and etc. So, and Peter has sons. So one is a chemist, Argo Summit and Argo Corn Products. Well, they changed the name, I think, but it used to be Argo Corn Products, and he's a chemist there. Very successful. And Arthur is a jeweler. He makes things. He surpasses Peter in talent, in ability. I mean, he's amazing. And he's the kid who just, I don't want anything to do with his store. I don't want anything to do with the store.
And he was the one that went into the family business.
And he went, yeah. So, and then the youngest, Peter, is he works. He just works like everybody else.
Sure.
Uh-huh.
So how did you end up in Pittsburgh?
Well, because we had that business, I didn't want to work there. But when you have Mama, a Siberian survivor, you just do what you're told. So I worked there and finally had an opportunity to go to Germany. My Gisela girlfriend, she wanted to visit Germany. So the two of us went, Mama, we're going to go for 6 weeks, travel Europe. We did that. She had a brother there, stepbrother still, so we went. And we're doing the touring, and we're loving it, and we're thinking, I don't want to go home. She says, I don't want to go home either. She didn't want to go back to a boyfriend that she wanted to end, and he wouldn't let her end. And I didn't want to go work for J.P. Jewelers again. So I called up my brother, and I said, I want to stay. Okay, you can stay, but if I need you, you come back. I said, okay, it's a deal. Got a job with United States Air Force in Europe, Wiesbaden, Germany.
Okay.
I had no talent other than jewelry. They don't need that. So they said, well, you know what? If you can type 35 words a minute, we'll hire you to be a key punch operator with IBM. Well, not IBM, but key punch. They had the key punch cards.
Yeah.
Remember those?
Yes, punch cards. Yeah.
Or are you too young?
No,
You remember. But anyway, so I went with the German girls to the class and brought up my typing, and I passed the typing finally, and then I got the job as a key punch operator, and I was a GS3. That's almost as low as you can go. You can go to GS2, but I think that's a janitor. I'm not sure. But anyway, so and then I get the call. Hello, I need you. Oh, can I have 2 weeks? Oh, okay. So I said, I bought a car when I was working for the Air Force.
Okay.
From a GI that was going home. Okay. I bought it for $125 with 2-3 months insurance included. Then I had to sell it, so I sold it for $125 to another GI, and then came home. Well, anyway, so I came home. Then my other girlfriend, 2 years later, or a year and a half, 2 years, wanted to go to Europe. I said, sure, I go. Mm-hmm. And so we go, and I said, we have to go to Wiesbaden, Germany, to where I worked, and there's still 2 people who are still there, because they transfer. They're still there, and they threw a little party. In walks, you asked me, how did I land up in Pittsburgh? In walks this tall GI, 6'2", red as a beet. He got sunburned, and I'm thinking, God, he looks like a lobster. Well, little did I know that lobster was going to be my husband. Anyway, that's how I got. That's how I got back to Pittsburgh. We got married. Not there. I mean, I came home and to Chicago, and we got married. And then he was still in the Air Force, so et cetera, et cetera. And then he got his MBA in Bloomington, Indiana, and got a job with PNC Bank, which is in Pittsburgh, yes. Pennsylvania, and that's how we came here. Okay. So that's how I landed up in Pittsburgh. And why am I still here? Well, because my daughter's here. My son is bi-coastal, so he's, that he'll be wherever, and I can be wherever. And then I thought, you know what, my roots are here. I've lived here most of my life, 50 years maybe. And in Chicago, first of all, living is much higher in living. If I had a place like this in Chicago, it would be double at least. My daughter's here. Everybody in Chicago, I'm the youngest. Their law of averages say they're going to pass before I pass. I have nobody, right. So my decision was, okay, I'm I'm no spring, you know, I mean, I need to figure out so I won't be a burden to my children. And so I stayed here. And then I came here because it was calling me.
Yeah. Now, you said you did go back to visit family in Belarus.
Yeah, in 1961, 9/11.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that was 61, wasn't it?
Which?
I don't mean 61.
2001?
2001. I'm sorry. 2001. Wasn't it 2001? Okay. Went back, and that was my 60th birthday. And I invited both my children, Jennifer and Kevin, to go with me to see my roots, where I was born, etc.
Had you been in touch with family that were still there? Did you know of anybody?
I did. My aunts in New Jersey, they corresponded all the time. So there was, my mother's sister was still alive back then. Well, anyway, so I invited both my kids to go, and my brother Johnny, the middle one, the chemist, and his wife, and my cousin Yanja from from Chicago, and her daughter Michelle. We all went to Europe. Well, while we were in, was it in Paris? Well, we were, no. We were in Hawaii. Yaja and Michelle didn't want to go to White Russia. They wanted to go to Paris. So they went that way. Yannick and I and Diana, we went to White Russia. So we took a train from to Minsk. And the interesting thing is the train tracks change at the border of, so that when you go to cross the border, the train stops, they pick up, and they move the, takes about an hour, which is amazing that it only takes an hour. Why don't they change the tracks? I don't know.
You would think by now they
Yeah.
would.
Well, 70 years later or whatever. Well, anyway, so that was an adventure. So we get to White Russia, and we're with my, the facial, maxillofacial surgeon is my, like, a second cousin or something like that. And his wife, Anya. Anyway, so we're there and we're visiting, etc. when the driver says, hey, he says, someone just attacked America. And my son looks at me, he says, Victor. Victor was his name. And then my cousin started talking to him. He says, oh my God, he said, it's real. Someone attacked America in New York City. And we looked at each other. We said, this can't be. This can't. Well, anyway. So I was in Borisov when 9/11 hit. You know, I should bet that number. It keeps coming up. It keeps coming up. But anyway, so we couldn't get back. We couldn't get back.
Wow.
Well, actually, it turned out it wasn't that much longer, but we could not get. Well, anyway, it was just it was like, honest to God, it's like, not again, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so then my son and I are, now Johnny and his wife, because they flew Copenhagen, they flew different from us. They were able to go back right from Minsk to, and get back to home. We couldn't. So we're in Borisov, in the hotel, and all of a sudden the air raid sirens go on. And I jump up and I go to the window and I'm looking out the window, and my son says, Mom, chill, what are you doing? I said, I'm looking for the planes, because air raids, He says, Mom, chill. They are honoring the slain people at 9/11 at the towers. They're giving them honor. or whatever
Yeah,
the word
yeah,
is. Yeah, they're giving them
they're
memorializing.
pausing to
Is that the right word? Whatever. But anyway, and I said, God, I thought I was born here and I'm going to die here. And so when we finally got my daughter to say that we were okay, she says, God, Mom, she said, all I could think of was, I would go crazy if I went, because she's a nester. She's, she doesn't have that adventure like I have and my son. But anyway, she says, oh my God, well, good thing you're okay and everything's. So we took a train back and landed up and going to Paris. And then I said, well, you're in Paris, you have to see the Eiffel Tower. So we go up the Eiffel Tower. I said, I know, son, this is not the way you wanted to see Eiffel Tower with your mother, but anyway. So, and then we did get home safe and sound from 9/11. Can you believe all that?
You have had a very exciting life.
Crazy. And it ain't over yet.
Yeah.
Anyway, what else could you drum up from my memories?
Any other images or any other? No, when you went back, did you recognize anything? When you went back to Borisov, or had it just?
No, because Smolino was wiped out.
Oh, it was.
Oh yeah, that was just a village, and Borisov is where my aunts lived, and so although my mother would have remembered it because that's where she hid for a long time, she would have remembered it, but no, I didn't. I didn't remember any of Borisov, except when we would be either driving or whatever, we would see a bunch of little old babkas with their babushkas, and they'd be either singing and doing something, etc. And that was so European, so White Russian, and Polish too. So anyway.
Do you still remember Polish? Do you still?
Oh, I speak it still. Yeah. Ja rozmawiam po polsku, ale mama zawsze mówiła, że ja mówię po polsku jak Żydówka. I'll translate. My mother always said, Hela, you speak Polish like a Jewish lady with a Jewish accent.
Oh, interesting.
With a Jewish accent.
Oh, interesting.
Which is silly.
Yeah.
But no, I still speak Polish, but you forget a lot.
Right.
Yeah. And I think English. Only probably because I grew up in America,
Sure.
But I think English. But now my cousins, no. In fact, Bianco, the one I asked about certain documentation, she thinks it's in Polish, and she writes Polish.
Oh, interesting.
So everything that she's writing, she writes in Polish.
Okay.
But they were like
Sure,
I said,
they
were much older than I. Mm-hmm. So
it's an amazing story.
And here I am at Providence Point.
So, any other things you want to add?
I don't think. Not that I recall. I mean, I'm forever grateful. And my father always was. My mother too.
Okay.
I mean, she would shiver every time she would talk about the old country, the way it was.
Yeah. And I assume they never went back.
No, and when I went back with my two kids, I asked my mother to come back with me, and she said, "Oh no, that's exactly no." So I think that's pretty much